Welcome back to the channel, guys. Know it's been a while since I posted a video. It's been probably 3 months or so, and that's because I'm up in Canada. I've told you guys before, the winters, they're pretty harsh up here, and there's not a lot that I can do in the winter, unfortunately. Most of the stuff that you see me do is out in the other shop, and it's not heated, not insulated, so it's not exactly somewhere I can work during the winter. So, doesn't mean I haven't been doing stuff. I have a lot of things in the works for the Duramax, K10, C10, Cruze, whatever. I've got a lot of stuff coming, and now that the snow is finally starting to melt, like it's getting actually quite nice outside. It's still a little soft outside, but we're getting there. I do have some stuff planned, and should be able to get back into the swing of things. So I have a few Cruze videos on my channel, and this is going to be another one. So this Cruze behind me, 2012 Cruze. 1.4 liter. It's a standard, and the clutch is just about shot on it. It does still move, but I'm going to be doing a clutch in it today. So if you're looking to do a clutch in yours, this will be a great video for you to watch. Like I said, 2012 Chevy Cruze, about 211,000 kilometers on this one. Basic 1.4, the regular manual transmission. And now I bought it knowing that it needed a clutch. So basically, the clutch release point is super high up, and most of the pedal doesn't do anything, and you can feel it slipping when you're doing decent acceleration. Now, this car has some other issues. You know, it's got the famous oil cooler leak down there. It's got a water pump leak. It has code PO420 for the cat. So all that stuff needs to be addressed while I'm in here. Now, normally when you do the clutch in a car, you would drop the subframe out the bottom, you drop the transmission out the bottom, do the clutch, put it all back in reverse. But since I am super familiar with pulling just the engine on these, and I know you can do it, I know there's enough room you can slide it over and up. And because I have to deal with the cat, I have to deal with the water pump, I have to deal with the oil cooler, and pulling the turbo off, I'm just gonna pull the engine out the top. Honestly, it's faster for me, especially not having a hoist. If you had a hoist, this would be a little bit different. You can just drop the subframe out the bottom and it would be actually quite easy. But because I'm doing this on the ground, I'm going to pull the engine. Now, you don't have to do it this way. It may not be the most efficient way for you because you do have to drain the cooling system, which you wouldn't have to if you just pulled the transmission. But since I'm doing, cooling system work, like I got to change the water pump, whatever, and the seals in the oil cooler, it makes more sense for me, in my opinion, to just pull the engine out the top. So that's what I'm going to jump into. I'll lift it up. I usually pull the front bumper on these. You don't have to, but I do. Just gives you a little bit more room to get in there, and draining the cooling system is a lot easier because the drain is over on this side of the rad. So pull the plastics off, pull the bumper, I'll lift it up, and then just start disconnecting things. Obviously, you got your intake, you got the fuel line back there, booster line, intercooler, charge pipes, you got rad hoses. What else? We got exhaust, obviously. And then motor mount over here, and all the transmission bolts, slide it out and up. So I'm going to stick this on time lapse. Shouldn't take me too long, but let's just get into it. I think I have everything unhooked, ready to pull. I have the harness off to the side there. Intake and charge pipes are off. Exhaust is unhooked from the downpipe. Fuel line, evap line, brake booster line. AC compressor staying with the car, staying hooked up, just unbolted from the engine. Cooling system's all unhooked, the heater hoses, the rad hoses. And other than that, transmission bolts are all out except for this one at the very top that's very easy to get to. So I'm going to hook up the engine crane to the load leveler, get some tension on it, pull off this engine mount, pull out that bolt, and see if I can get this thing to slide out and come out the top, and see if I can get this thing to slide over and up and out of the car. Got the engine pulled out. Did have a little bit of difficulty. The exhaust for some reason wanted to stay attached to the cat. I just had to lower it back down, push it off, and lift it back up, and we were all good there. Then I actually went ahead and I pulled the actual clutch off. Now when you're doing this, do like one turn at a time and go all the way around because it's spring loaded, right? So just kind of work your way around, slowly releasing the spring to the point where you can take the whole spring plate off. So when you pull that off, you can see it's not totally toasted. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but you can definitely tell it's getting worn, and it's getting time for a new one. And obviously the pressure plate's gonna have your normal hot spots and weird markings, but it is what it is. Now I will say the one thing you are supposed to do when you do this job, change the flywheel or get it resurfaced so they take a little bit off of this surface, get it down to be 100% true and flat. It's basically the same as getting a brand new one. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. I'm going to call around, see if people can do this type of flywheel, because it's I think they call it a dual mass flywheel, because obviously this spins independent of the actual crankshaft. For some reason, I don't know how they work, but it's a dual mass flywheel. I don't know if normal shops can do that. So I'll call around, get a price. I might do it, I might not. If you don't do it, better chance that you're gonna wear out the clutch a lot faster. So I'm undecided on if I'm doing that. And now with all this removed, you can see how dirty this thing is. Like the oil cooler in there is leaking down all over this. We've got the usual water pump leak, making a mess over here. We've got these two solenoids. They like to leak, make a puddle, drill all the way down. And the pan is leaking as well down there and at the back here as well. So probably going to address all those issues while the engine's out before it goes back in the car. So the clutch disc and the pressure plate now installed. These bolts get tightened to 21 foot-pounds. Make sure you have thread lock on them. I put blue Loctite on them. They do recommend you replace those 6 bolts. I did reuse them, but it's totally up to you. Now the tool they actually included to line up the clutch disc, it doesn't fit for some reason. Like the splines will fit into the disc, but then the actual end part that's supposed to go into the flywheel, not the right size. So that didn't work at all. So I just eyeballed this. I think it's roughly centered. I'm hoping with enough force I can just kind of make it go into place properly. I really hope anyway. And then everything else, just kind of cleaned it up. I did a couple things to the engine while it was out. Did the infamous oil cooler gaskets. I changed the cat, had a PO420 code, so I changed the cat. Resealed the oil pan, did water pump seal, and then I did the 2 cam actuator seals as well, and then just cleaned everything up. So this thing is ready to drop back in. Hopefully it goes in smoothly, hopefully that lines up. I guess we'll just have to find out how that goes. Well, I'll be honest, that actually went a whole lot better than I thought it would. Just pretty much dropped it right down in here. I had to lift the transmission up a touch just to get it at the right angle. And then once I had it at the right angle, it literally just slid right in. I was quite surprised. I've done a couple clutches, a couple manual transmissions on various cars. And usually it's kind of a pain to try and get the shaft to line up with the splines on the clutch disc. And then get the 2 fully mated together, but literally this one pretty much just fell in place. So I have the I don't know, like 8 or 9 transmission bolts in now. Those are all in and good, and the mount is on this side now, so it's just sitting there by itself. And then now I can pretty much go ahead and hook everything else back up. I'll put the starter back on and hook up all this, AC compressor back on, bring the wiring harness, flop it back over here. Once everything's back together, I can go ahead and bleed the clutch and make sure that the clutch is working 100%. Long story short, engine's back in, everything's hooked up. I fired it up, runs good, fired right up. Got the clutch bled. Now that is definitely a painful process if you're doing it by yourself. I definitely recommend having a second person. But the best way to do it is picture it just like a regular hydraulic braking system. So you have your bleed screw right down there on the slave. I know you can't really see it, but there is a little nipple, just like a brake bleeder screw. It's an 11 mil nut. Make sure your brake reservoir is full of fluid or close to it, because they share a reservoir. And then that just comes down to the slave. I believe it's called the slave on these cars. Yeah, so pump it a few times, hold it, release, so you get some fluid coming out of there, tighten it back up, and repeat. Just keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you get to the point where you don't think you have any more air coming out. And then you can just try it. If you find that you have to pump the clutch a few times to get it into gear or get it out of gear or whatever, obviously you don't have it bled enough. So just keep going, keep going, keep going. You have to be quite patient with it until you get it to the point where you have a nice release point and you don't have to pump it in order to do what you want. I will mention, while I was in here, I did install the PCV fix kit from cruzekits.com. This is their V3.1 kit. Just thought I'd mention that. If any of you think this looks weird, it's because it has the updated PCV kit. So I will leave a link to that in the description if you're interested. It fixes the PCV system in these cars, so you don't have to deal with that anymore whatsoever. And I installed it in one previous car, and it was great. Never had a single issue with the PCV system after that. So at this point, the best thing for me is just to drive it. I think I have the clutch bled, but it's possible that there might be a little bit of air trapped in there. So I want to drive the thing, make sure it goes into all gears properly, and that it has a nice release point as well. So we're going to take this thing for a drive and see how it feels. So unfortunately, it's a little dark out right now, so not sure what you'll be able to see, but it works. The first gear release point seems a little funny to me, so I think I might have a little bit of bleeding left to do yet, but everything else, like it all works. And if you put it in first, you can almost feel the car want to kind of jerk forward a little bit, just a little bit. Same with reverse too. So I have a feeling I might have a little bit of air left in that line, but It'll go into first, and it feels pretty solid. Go into second here. Like once you're actually moving, it shifts quite nice. It's just getting into first, or getting up to speed starting in first, basically. Now that could also be just me. Like, it's been a while since I drove a manual Cruze. I have an automatic right now, so maybe I just have to get used to that. But it does seem like maybe I could bleed it a little bit more. So fast forward a few weeks now. I've been driving that car off and on for the last couple weeks since I rebuilt it. I've put probably around 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers on it, had a pretty good road trip on it, and everything's been going really well with it. I did end up bleeding the clutch once more. After you'd let the car sit for any extended period of time, you could definitely tell that you'd have to pump the clutch up a few times at first to get it into gear. And then even when you do put it in gear with your foot on the clutch, you could almost feel the car want to jump forward because it's like barely engaging. So I would pump the pedal 5 times, hold it, release, like you crack the bleeder, release, or crack the bleeder, tighten it back up, and then do that procedure 5 times, check it again, still not good, do it another 5 times, and I think I did it 10 or 15 times, and now finally it's good. And I have heard before that these clutches are a bit of a pain to bleed, and now I see why. So just be persistent with it. It really helps to have another person. I was doing it by myself. Best way to do it by yourself is you wedge your pry bar in between the seat and the clutch pedal, hold it right to the floor. Works really well if you have a power seat like that car, but it is definitely way easier with a second person. So I want to thank everybody for watching. If this video helped you at all, be sure to let me know down below, and be sure to subscribe because the Cruze videos, they're not going anywhere because I keep buying Cruzes for some reason. And the K10 videos are definitely coming back now that the weather's getting warmer. We just got another snow near the end of April here, so that's not great, but we'll definitely get on the K10. Hope to finish it up in the next month or two here so I can get that thing driving this summer. And I have a couple other plans in the works. So be sure to stay tuned, and we'll see you guys in the next one.